r/ask Reddit. What's a sign that somebody wasn't raised right? They don't take responsibility for their actions. Or worse, they want you to take responsibility for their actions. This is so annoying, and when you say no, that means you are rude. You give them a lift and they leave rubbish in your car. I forgot my candies and trash in a carpool 6 years ago and I still remember it. The driver rushed us out because he made a mistake, to be fair, but my ducking brain won't forget it. How they treat people from whom they have nothing to gain. Retail will tell you about 75% of people exhibit this sign. I worked in retail. It's more like 20% in my experience, but you remember those more on a bad day. I'd say 10% are a-holes 24/7. And 70% are one bad day away from screaming at some random teenager whenever they feel inconvenienced and never feeling guilty about it. The word no just means throw a fit and be as obnoxious as you can be until you get your way. No does not mean that rules are rules or someone's job might be on the line. They're the important one, not anyone else. The kid that sticks out in my mind was screaming I want something in a store, back when we all, went to stores, not like, I want this particular thing, just something. Buy me something. I must feed my insatiable thirst for stuff. If they're young kids, it's not always a sign that they aren't being raised right. Sometimes kids can just be brats. Now if that behavior carries on into their teens and adulthood, they probably weren't raised right. Disrespecting people for doing their job. Lack of personal accountability. They can never admit wrongdoing on their part. It's always someone else's fault. Yes, totally. And it's often because immature parents don't realize they should model this behavior by apologizing to their children when they, parent, do something wrong. When you don't respect your kids, they can become disrespectful dongs. When my oldest was 2-3, I apologized to him about something. I don't remember what now, in public. What I do remember is the awful woman I walked away from who was scolding me about how parents should never give away their power by apologizing to children. Now, teachers and myself always believe my kid. Why? Cause he always owns up to stuff and apologizes. Came here to say this. Few people really understand, I think, the importance of an apology and the right way to apologize. Not respecting personal boundaries. If you're wondering why someone has these sorts of issues, take a look at their parents. Dear God, I used to be friends with a guy who was like this. I made the mistake of talking him through some difficult things and he took that to mean that I wanted him present 24/7. He'd see that I was hanging out with somebody else and then text me bugging me to ditch that person and hang with him instead because he was sad and lonely. I understand not wanting to be sad and lonely, but you can't make me ditch all my other friendships to fix that. I had a friend who got creepy clingy like that. It got to the point that he followed my Snap Map location to where I was with some friends. They didn't know each other and demanding I hang out with him instead. One rule for me, one rule for you. Parents that mess up on the discipline accountability stage of parenting produce these people. Rules for thee but not for me. Who are the guys who spit out their chewing gum into urinals? I see this all the time at work and I work in a high-end corporate place. Do they think it dissolves and goes down the pipe? The janitor has to pick that out. I had a guy shit on the floor in the bathroom at my work, then apologized because I was working the shift, not my co-worker he hated. People are ducking weird, dude. How they act as a boss when their employee messes up. Yelling and belittling shouldn't be your first option. This was what made me respect the absolute hell out of my manager. I made a mistake on a job a while back. Like a big duck up that cost us a large sum of money. I was fully expecting to get chewed out, and you duck up again, you're out the door. Because that's how previous managers had treated us. It's no wonder we had a horrific management and employee turnover rate for years. But no. He came over to the car I was working on, looked at what happened, figured out how the mistake was made, and we talked about it for a couple minutes. I was pretty upset about it because I'm usually not the type of tech who is negligent and makes mistakes. So when I do, it profoundly bothers me. He saw that. He listened to what I said, and he went through the process of getting replacement parts ordered for what I messed up. The next morning he came to me again and said, "You know, I was thinking about you last night after I got home and thinking of what you could do to prevent this mistake from happening again in the future. gave me a few suggestions for the future, and closed the conversation with a pat on the shoulder and a "we won't need to have this conversation again. Brother, I trust you." It was the most meaningful conversation I have ever had with a manager. I got the sense that he really wants to see his employees succeed and grow. It gave me confidence in a moment in which I had none left. They always portray themselves as a victim. Nothing is ever their fault and somebody is always out to get them. How they treat animals and people without power. I remember hearing as a kid about a Native American belief that's really stuck with me. After you die and as you're entering the afterlife, you must cross a bridge. This bridge is filled with every animal you had a personal encounter with in your lifetime, and together as a whole they decide your fate, whether or not you can cross the bridge to heaven. This was the first and only time I've heard of your fate being decided by animals. They litter. If you throw your shit on the floor, then you have 1. No respect, and 2, you're tramp. We went for a trail walk that leads out toward a dam and some rock formations with many waterfalls. Broken beer glass was strolled along the entire trail, an hour-long walk, guys, and the amount of garbage at the falls was honestly mind-blowing. Like someone had brought 10 or so full bags and just busted them open all over the place. It's one of few natural areas in that city, and it just sucks so much that people care so little. It doesn't take much effort to just not destroy a nice thing with your litter. I'd say on the other end of the spectrum, if someone is anxious about simple social interactions, like sharing their opinions, this is a big indicator that somebody's parents' temper had a hair trigger. Someone that does things to intentionally hurt another person's feelings after they've expressed that certain thing hurts their feelings. They never say please or thank you. My parents were super sticklers for rules and manners growing up, but they never say please or thank you in restaurants. It is so embarrassing eating out with them. They leave trash in theater and state that it's the employee's job to clean up their mess. I never thought of this before, but this is the absolute correct answer, Imo. You literally walk past trash cans on your way out and you would be carrying out less stuff than you even brought in, so you obviously can carry it. They whistle, snap their fingers, or make that PS sound to get their server's attention in a restaurant. I snapped my fingers to get a teacher's attention once in middle school. She barked at me something fierce. I learned my lesson. They apologize for every little thing. Probably a sign that they grew up with abusive parents that got mad over anything and everything. I'm trying to break that habit, RN, and oh my god, does it take such a huge amount of willpower not to apologize. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.